Muscular Strength, Training Muscles to Become Stronger by Melissa Kent, Jessica Hansen, and Mariah Cooney. The objectives of this presentation is to educate people on the history of strength training, muscular strength and the 4 methods of measuring it, the 1 rep maximum, the difference between absolute and relative muscle strength, muscle movements, training systems, the concepts of the core, hypertrophy and hyperplasia, bone density, metabolic stress of resistance training, muscle soreness, and stiffness. I've been right. I don't know why I stopped talking. 776 BC. Okay. I don't know why that number is so hard. Weight training began in 776 BC when athletes from China, Japan, India, Greece, and Rome trained year-round for warfare. They trained to improve overall strength and endurance by using elements of nature, such as heavy stones, for training. It became a spectator sport and popular in America in 1840 when strong men traveled around in carnivals and slideshows to make money and perform. In 1896, powerlifting was introduced to the Olympics and began with 1- and 2-arm lifts. That later became known as the press, the snatch, and the clean and jerk. It wasn't until 1980 that women powerlifting was introduced into the Olympics, and in the year 2000, the first woman from the U.S. won a gold medal.
Awesome. Do you have water? No. With you? No.
Wait, what is it?
Just lemon oil from Terra.
No, but I'm gonna fill my water bottle.
So good.
I don't have very much water in here, but put a little drop in there.
There's
and
like
then
1 drop's equal to like, I don't know how many lemons. I put a couple of mine.
Perfect. Then I'll go fill it back up after this.
It's just like
Smell it.
Caleb has peppermint in that, and it's so good. I put it in my water all the time. Well, not all the time now, but I used to.
but it definitely happened one time.
It definitely used to happen all the time.
Now I'm just gonna smell these lemons all day.
Like this one, like I have the worst stomach aches, like with different stuff. I thought I was gluten intolerant, but the test came back negative. And this stuff, like if you like have like an upset stomach, just you could take a drop orally, or like rub it on your belly and like almost instantly.
You just like feel so much better.
Or this one, just do like 1 drop on your tongue. It's like a lot of licorice. It won't do anything like bad for you. It's just
A lot of
oil.
reeks.
No, totally.
But
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna record this slide.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Muscle strength represents the maximum force or tension output generated by a muscle or group of muscles. I got way too talked about it. Okay, wait, what am I going to say? Okay, I got to practice saying these words. Cable tensiometry, correct. Dynamometry, yes! Okay.
Just think the mom is
Dynamometry. Okay, got this.
There's a dinosaur.
Cable tensiometry measures muscle force in a static or isometric muscle action that elicits little or no change in the muscle external link. It is, that's what I need to say. It is lightweight, portable, and easy to use. Okay, now I'm ready.
The other one too is hypertrophy, right?
I think you can say either or, like tomato and
Hypertrophy or
tomato.
hypertrophy.
Yeah.
Like tomato and tomato.
True.
Tomato is definitely wrong.
I agree, but like hypertrophy.
Just bringing up a point, but
just saying.
Definitely the way that the English language works wrong.
Friggin' retarded.
Like pecan, pecan.
Exactly.
Pecan? Really? That's what you call it? Pecan?
You sound like Brian. He just stopped himself in the middle of his lecture.
Like, huh?
That's the one that I don't understand.
Okay, I'm gonna try this slide again. The 4 main methods of measuring muscular strength are cable tensiometry, which measures muscle force in a static or isometric muscle action that elicits little or no change in muscle external link. It is lightweight, portable, and easy to use. Dynamometry, invented by Charles Babbage, assesses muscular force output of specific muscles before, during, and after physical training and rehabilitation. The 1 rep maximum is the amount of weight lifted one time using proper form to assess the person's maximum lifting capacity. Computer-assisted is technology that measures the force, torque, acceleration, and velocities in different movement patterns such as jumping, cycling, and leg press. The 1 repetition maximum is when the tester makes an estimate close to or below the person's maximum lifting capacity. The weight is progressively added in 2.5 to 5 pound increments with 1 to 5 minutes of resting time in between attempts. This type of testing involves the use of isotonic or dynamic muscle contractions. It translates well to real-life situations as well as exercise performance.
Absolute muscle strength is when the max force happens no matter the muscle or body size. Men have a considerably higher strength level than women, who score 50% lower than men for upper body and 30% for lower leg strength. With that in mind, human skeletal muscle for males and females cannot exert more than between 16 and 30 newtons. Relative muscle strength is how strong you are for your size. The most accurate way to measure this is with the 1 rep maximum test. Concentric muscle movement is when it goes against gravity. An example of this is a dynamic movement, which is when action produces movement of a skeletal body part such as a trunk, upper, or lower limb. In the picture above, it shows elbow flexion also as an example of this. An eccentric muscle movement is the return from a concentric muscle movement or going with gravity. This is also a dynamic muscle action. The illustration above shows a return from a bicep curl. Isometric muscle movements is when joint angles remain constant and no significant amount of tension is developed in order to remain in a static or stable position. The picture on the left shows a concentric movement with the muscles shortening. On the right, it shows an eccentric movement on the return from a calf raise as the muscles lengthen. And the bottom picture shows an isometric movement, which is a plank.
Titties, I think we're good. I'm not good with recordings. Gosh. This is where I do not
Why does this have just a...
Oh, is it my turn? A massive what?
Microphone in here.
Oh, no, don't press that. I don't know what it does, but don't do it.
Okay.
We don't press buttons.
Resistance training is the most popular form of training. It involves raising or lowering the weight in the form of a barbell, dumbbell, or weight plates on a pulley or machine. In most cases, the amount of weight lifted remains constant for all reps and sets. Progressive resistance exercise is a method of increasing the ability of muscles to generate force. It increases strength of a weak or injured muscle by gradually increasing resistance. It is usually 3 sets of 10 with no rest while doing the reps. Increases ability of muscles to generate force. Progressive resistance training introduces the overload principle, where for a muscle to grow, strength to be gained, performance to increase, or for any similar improvement to occur, the human body must be forced to adapt to a tension that is above and beyond what has previously been experienced.
Sorry.
That's okay. Resistance training guidelines for sedentary adults, the elderly, and cardiac patients. Usually focuses on maintaining and possibly increasing muscle and bone mass and other muscular strength and endurance to enhance their overall health and physical fitness. It is with moderate intensity and involves single sets of diverse exercises with a minimum of twice a week. Resistance training is an important part of any health-related physical fitness program.
Lessons.
Yeah. Why do I feel
It
like
was
I have
about,
a
like, my son.
frog in my throat?
That's what happens. It's like,
All right, here we go. Resistance training for children and adolescents should be supervised with concentric-only muscle actions with high repetitions and low resistance. There is a larger injury potential in children and adolescents with heavy lifting. High repetition, low resistance improves muscular strength of children and adolescents without negative effects on bone, muscle, or connective tissue. It is good to introduce children around the age of 7 to resistance training with little or no weight. At age 8 to 10, increase the number of exercises and practice technique. At 11 to 13, you should teach all basic exercise techniques and introduce advanced exercises with little or no resistance. At around age 14 to 15, you should progress in more advanced and sport-specific exercises. At age 16 and older, you can move into entry-level adult programs. Static versus dynamic training. Static training is also known as isometrics. It exerts muscles at high intensities without movement of the joints, like holding a squat or plank. Dynamic training is more slow and controlled movements with a complete range of motion, like doing squats or push-ups. Both are great methods of increasing muscle strength. Isokinetic resistance training combines isometric exercise and dynamic weightlifting. It provides muscle overload at a preset, constant speed while the muscle mobilizes its force-generating capacity. It activates the largest number of motor units to overload. Maintaining a constant movement is one negative aspect because
the muscles in weightlifting do not generate the maximum force through all movement phases, which is why it is important to use different variations of training. Bodybuilders usually have many variations of the same exercises, adding supination or pronation to target different force-generating aspects. Concentric muscle actions produce greater power gains and type 2 muscle fiber hypertrophy in comparison to eccentric training at equivalent power levels.
it mainly gives me anxiety because I don't want to, like, get all the way through it and be like, oh, that didn't work.
But we can always go back and edit single slides at a time if we really, like, if there's one that we're just like, oh, that really didn't work out. You can redo a single slide because once you save this, you can go back into it and just do one slide at a time.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if that makes you feel any better. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Plyometric training is used in football, volleyball, sprinting, high jump, long jump, and basketball. The basic principle for all jumping and plyometric exercises is to absorb the shock with the arms and legs and then immediately contract the muscles. This type of training allows the athlete to develop greater power at the end of the movement, similar to game-like movements. Lower body drills such as standing jump, multiple jumps, depth jump, drop jumping, single and double leg jumps are each examples of movements that can be used in plyometric training.
Do either of you guys have your packet with you for muscles for
Kinesiology?
kinesiology?
Nate, I do not.
A little bit for sure. But everything better.
The core includes 29 pairs of muscles, which hold the trunk steady, balance, and stabilize the surrounding bony structures. The four main benefits of a properly functioning core are the appropriate distribution of forces, optimal control and efficiency of movements, adequate absorption of ground impact forces, absence of excessive compressive, translation, and shearing forces across the kinetic chain joints. There are 5 components contributing to explosive power shown on this graph. Each component makes important neuromuscular contributions to maximal power training. It does not take trained people as long to reach their maximum training level as it would take an untrained person. Once a maximum is reached, it is extremely hard for the body to maintain. During training, it is most important to focus on the least developed muscles. That's fine.
Feel like a cow.
Genetics, the nervous system activation. Untrained what? Untrained people. Okay. This graph shows the main differences between untrained people, trained athletes, and athletes that use steroids. As each individual progresses in their training duration, the neural and muscular adaptations and strength improve with resistance training. Many individuals are tempted to use anabolic steroids to continue to increase muscular hypertrophy when their results plateau from training.
Hypertrophy is when the muscle architecture has to remodel before you can see any gains in the muscle cross-sectional area. This happens between 0 and 3 weeks of training. Overload training enlarges individual fibers with subsequent muscle growth. I almost said sarcoplasmic volume. The volume of the Okay. What are you doing? I know, it's okay. There are 2 different types of hypertrophy. Sarcoplasmic is when the volume of sarcoplasmic fluid in cells increases with no increase in muscle strength. This is seen to be higher in bodybuilders. Myofibrillar is when actin and myosin contractile proteins increase in number and add to muscular strength, as well as a small increase in the size of the muscle. Hypertrophy is independent of age and gender. Muscle strength and power do not reflect hypertrophy. Metabolic adaptations are changes that occur between 4 to 8 weeks of training. They affect type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. Muscle cell remodeling. Muscles do not remain fixed throughout their life. Their size changes. Muscle fibers undergo regeneration and remodeling to alter their phenotypic profile. Myogenic stem cells proliferate and differentiate to form new fibers within the muscle. Muscle hyperplasia is when the number of muscle cells increases. There recently has been research done to support the possibility of hyperplasia in humans. Further research would need to be done in order to confirm whether this is actually possible. And I think that you have the rest of them.
So 31 through 36. Muscle hyperplasia is the longitudinal splitting under stress, neuromuscular disease, or muscular injury. It is when a large muscle fiber splits into two or more individual daughter cells through lateral budding. New cell fibers do not split, but will split as a result of damage to original fiber, which leads to growth. We are all born with a fixed number of cells. Bone density. Increased muscle mass equals increased bone density, where decreased muscle mass equals decreased bone density. Skipping training for 2 weeks can cause powerlifters to lose up to 12% of muscle strength and 6.4% of muscle size. Frequent training leads to lasting cells and maintenance when not in a power phase. Metabolic stress of resistance training. Resistance training produces no improvement in VO2 max or submaximal exercise, heart rate, and stroke volume. Resistance training places localized stress on specific muscles. Lack of cardiovascular improvement results from the relatively low whole body metabolic and circulatory demands and high anaerobic metabolic requirements of resistance training. Circuit resistance. We should have a blooper slide at the end. Muscle soreness and stiffness. There are two types. One occurs following extended layoffs or with unaccustomed exercise, and the other appears later and can last up to 3 to 4 days. It is called delayed onset soreness. Soreness and stiffness can be in used muscles or joints. The 7 factors that produce delayed onset muscle soreness are small tears or damage in contractile components of muscle, osmotic pressure changes, muscle spasms, overstretching and tearing of connective tissue, acute inflammation, change in calcium regulation, and a combination of all the above factors. Sounded okay, even though I messed up a little.
Well, it sounds like we're not just